Hey folks, George Leoniak back with another Doing Sacred Geometry video. I'm pretty excited today. I've done about 4 videos on the um, Krystal Spiral, and I realized that now that I'm doing these Doing Sacred Geometry videos, I've never actually shown how to draw the Krystal Spiral. And as I searched around online a little bit, there's quite a bit of reference to Krystal spirals, but I haven't seen a good tutorial on how to draw one. So I've come up with a nifty little method that I'm going to show you how to do that. And there's some other neat discoveries in here if you're interested in Krystal spiral in general without all the technique that's involved in drawing this accurately. So stick around about halfway through the video, some neat finds in relationship to the Krystal spiral and the phi ratio. So without further ado, before I jump into that, let me just, if you haven't been following the other videos, a couple things that you'll want to have is, a good ruler. I like this one that's about 2 inches wide. It's got little inch grids on it, as well as a good mechanical pencil and a fine tip marker if you like to highlight certain things so that you can then erase other lines. So those are some other things. Of course, besides that, all you really need is the straight edge and the compass. So you can use a good compass and the drawing pad. Now for this drawing, compared to the other ones, this is what you'll be drawing, the Krystal spiral. And it's built off of this grid, rotating squares of 45 degrees to one another. So follow along with the PowerPoint presentation. It's a little easier to follow on there than to watch me do it by hand. But you'll be drawing this spiral as it goes up and out and around based on this system. So I might come back to this in a minute, but you'll be needing a little bit larger piece of paper than the last videos because I'm going to ask you to do in 4-inch starting line rather than the 2-inch starting line that we have been doing. But I'll show you that all in a second. So let's jump into the screen share so I could show how the Krystal spiral is created using sacred geometry principles and techniques. Okay, so just like, we've been hanging out with this view for a little bit, starting off this way with the single line. Like I said, I want you to draw the 4-inch line to be the starting line on the piece of paper. So draw that one. And then just like we did in the other videos, we're going to now draw, this is 4, we're going to set our compass radius to 4 inches. So we're going to get a nice 8-inch circle, creating the Vesica Pisces shape here, the almond shape in the middle. And similar to other videos, now we will draw our 4-inch diameter circle in the middle. And that also allows us to find the center point, because between the point of the vesica here, you can draw a straight line. So that's where you'll set your compass needle to draw the 4-inch circle with the 2-inch radius. Moving on from there, just like we've done in all the other videos, we've really been hanging out in this view. I know a lot of other people in getting introduced to sacred geometry, they jump right into the concentric circles of the flower of life, or the flowery radial petals of the flower of life design. But here we've been hanging out with this 4-petal design. And from your 4-inch circle, you're going to keep your compass at the same diameter, same radius. You can point it at each of the 4 corners on the line where it intersects the main circle in the middle, and you'll draw another circle around each of those 4 points. And that's kind of your main setup. From that, I've grayed out the template that we used to get that, because now we're going to draw our first square by going to the 4 flower petals and going to those corners, creating your square. So you got a 4x4 box. And now you're going to draw these other lines, which you're going to need. It doesn't really matter what length, just extend them a little bit beyond the outer edge of the circles. And they're going to go through. So now you have 8 directions laid out on your piece of paper. I know I'm going through this kind of quick. I can't imagine anybody could draw this as fast as I'm talking. So just feel free to pause the video as we go, do that quick little drawing, and then just continue on to the next step. So now to lay out our Krystal Spiral grid, the layout that we're going to build it off of, what we need to do is start drawing the other squares that are tilted at 45 degrees. So it's pretty simple to do. We're just going to go up to the top corner and you're going to draw a line. It's going to intersect the corners of the previous square that you had. So we'll do one over here. And we're going to go inside the cube or the square now. And we'll draw another one on the inside of the square here. And we're just going to keep rotating that square back and forth. Another one on the inside of the rotated rotated square here. Another one. So now this is a 2-inch square. Yep, 2-inch square. And then we're going to rotate this again. And I just did the rest of them real quick. And you're going to go down to, we're going to have the 1-inch square in there. And then we're going to have the 0.5 square. And then we're going to go all the way down to, in the final drawing, 1/4 of an inch, 0.25 inch square in the middle. Now these other ones that are rotated, they are following the, for instance, the 1-inch square has within it the 1-inch square, which is here. Where is it? The 2-inch square has this diagonal within it, which is the √2 measurement right here. So they're extending on kind of the square root of the numbers going along these diagonal lines here, creating the diagonal boxes. So one last square that we're going to make is the outer one, and because we kind of ran out of an anchor point at the top, because this last one is 8-inch square, what we'll do is we'll just take two blue lines and we'll go off the main square that we started with, just run those straight up all the way through. So now that you know where the top point of those circles are, and then just connect a line across the top and square that in until it meets the corners of the diagonal 8-direction layout that you've got, the 4 offset cardinal directions, the subdirections here. All right, so now that's the main layout. If we've got all our grid work set up, and now the next step is to draw in the arc that's going to make the Krystal Spiral. So now this is the unique part to this design. This is going to give you the most smooth arc. And the way you're going to do this is the first spiral segment of the spiral that you're going to do. I know I just put a big red circle up here, but the first segment that you're going to do is you're going to anchor your compass needle at this black dot, which is in the corner of this 45-degree tilted square here. And then you're going to set your lead over to here, and then you're just going to make that arc from here to here. That's really all you need to draw. I'll show you that in the next slide, is this little blue segment. That's going to give you 1 bit. But I did the whole circle because it's going to reveal something about these circles that I'm going to get to in a little bit. You'll see that when we anchor this compass needle here, and we do complete the whole circle rather than just focus on the one little segment of this curve here, it's going to connect here and down in this corner and over here and over here. So it's connecting along these points. And I discovered something interesting about the size of these circles, because prior to this, when I was drawing it, I was pretty much just focused on this little arc segment and never really measured what the size of this circle that it's connected to is. And that's the interesting thing. We'll get to in a moment. So there's the blue arc that I went from a red circle to the blue arc. And now we're going to continue on with our next step. Is previously our needle was anchored here, we're going to slide that needle up into the next segment point. So it's facing, our compass is going to face here, and we're going to set our lead to here. So each of these circles are going to be smaller than the previous one. And so set your corners here and then draw that other arc. It's going to give you a real nice smooth arc to this crystal spiral we're creating, and connect those two dots. So let me just set the compass really quickly on paper so I could just show you what it is I'm talking about, just so you could see it with the compass. And I'll just hold that up and then we'll come back here in a second. So set the compass up. Here is, I have these labeled. This one corresponds to the arc over here. So I've set my compass. You don't even need to do any measuring. All you have to do is set your compass needle to, let's get a little smaller, right there. So I've got the set here. I've set it right there. And then you're going to drag it up, following that line, all the way up to the top there. And I'm just going over the line that exists. So that's what you're going to do. And then when you set up the next one, you're going to have to reset your compass. You're going to have to go over here, reset completely, which I need 2 hands to do, and then do the next one. So that's how you're doing your arcs. So if you pause the video at these different sections, you'll be able to follow along to find your bearings to create that spiral that's going to be connected from a bunch of these little segments of this circle. Okay, back to the sharing. Okay, so we've added another, where am I here? We've got another blue arc there, and you see it's creating that nice smooth spiral. So the way the spiral is being created is it's following the edge or half an edge of each of the successively larger squares. So half of this, it's following, this is the 4-inch square, so it's following a 2-inch segment, and this is the 5.65 square, so it's following half of that. And now the next one here, it's going to follow half of the root 8 square, the 2.83. So it's going to actually follow a 1.41. It's going to follow a root 2 segment right through here when we do the next one, which is coming up. Oh, didn't want to move that. So here we are. Now here's your anchor point for your compass right at the top of the square. And now set your lead over to this corner so that when you do a complete circle all the way around, it will connect these points as you go. But all you're really focused on is the curve between these 2 points right here. And that will look like that. So I find it easy to start from the outside and kind of work your way in as you follow these connecting points and setting the compass as you go, resetting and resetting as you slowly make your way towards the center point or close to the center point. We'll talk about that in a second, in a few more rounds of the spiral. So here is the next one. So we've gone from this point, we move over to here, set your compass here and here, and do another little arc. So now this circle, we're going to talk about in just a moment. Is this the right one? Nope, next one. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Let's zoom in a little bit because it's going to start to really get further and further away. Yep, so here we go, the next curve, the next curve. We've done 4 curves so far. By the time we're done with this, we'll have gone around 360 all the way around. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I think to get to 360, yep, we got a few more to go. So the next circle coming in, get rid of that, we don't need that just yet. So we've got our next spot where we set our compass. Here it is, this little segment of line is connecting here and here. And this is the circle that I wanted to pause at because now I just want to discuss a little bit of the mathematics that were revealed to me, kind of a little bit of a revelation around this because, like I said before, I had just been focusing on this little segment when I came up with where to set the compass, how to get a nice smooth arc for the Krystal Spiral. And then I discovered that, well, you know, let's just determine the size of these circles that I'm doing. And this one right here happened to be 2.2360 dot, dot, dot. And that, if you're familiar, there's the arc. If you're familiar with the mathematics of phi, then this number, root 5, should really pop out to you, 2.236. That's the size of this circle that we just drew that was anchored off of that center point that was right here. In fact, let me just pull one thing in here because we need this square here. Put that in. Yep, so right off that corner there is where we set our compass. And that's where we did the circle. And it's going to connect these outer corners like I described before. And it just happens to make a nice, when I start with the 4-inch circle, or if I started with the 2-inch or 1-inch and went either way, this circle, when you draw it, is going to have that dimension. And the very cool thing about this was that the Krystal Spiral is built on that root 5 measurement and root 10, meaning that the square, these circles, are alternating back and forth, which we're only taking a segment of, are alternating back and forth between root 5 times 2 times 3 times 4, or divided by 2, divided by the next number as we go, smaller and smaller. It's always a multiple of the root 5, just like the previous circle, which was this one here, is a multiple of root 10. So 3.16, you put in your calculator 10, hit the little square root symbol, that will give you that number. And the other one, root 5, is likewise. So if you were to divide this, which we'll see in a moment, it will give you the next number divided down from root 5, which would be 1.118. So the whole thing is built on root 5 and root 10 when we start with those measurements. So root phi is contained in here. And another nifty way to get the phi ratio is also contained in here, where you can actually divide your line at the critical golden section, the golden cut right here. It's built right into this design that we're creating. And this was just new to me a couple hours ago. So, you know, all you really need to create this is, you know, the 1-inch circle, the 2-inch circle, and the root 2 circle and the root 8 square. These are all squares, sorry, 1-inch square, 2-inch square, and then the two 45-degree rotated ones, the root 2 square and the root 8 square. And then when you draw this, if you draw this blue line across here, and right here, well, that gives you your 1-inch. And then from the top of this circle right here to the square that we've cut across here, that gives you the golden ratio, 1 to 1.618, on and on and on. So pretty neat to see that the phi ratio is built into this, which was somewhat interesting. I mean, the sacred mathematics and the sacred geometry all in there, but I know within the some of the Krystal Spiral work is, you know, Fibonacci sequence, the fib of no chi. There's a certain amount of lingo around not really liking the phi ratio or the golden ratio or pointing holes in it, but it's contained within the mathematics that I'm discovering here. The other interesting thing here is that this rouge godseed, which is part of the Cathara grid system in the Krystal Spiral that we're working on, is one of the symbols that is used. And while I was just kind of checking this out, I saw that all I had to do was move a 1-inch square over to here, and it would create this pattern that would fit right in here like this. And you can draw this pretty easily, and you'll be able to draw this rouge godseed, you know, accurately as it's drawn here. Because now what I've done is this little segment here is between the blue and the red dot here. And this little segment here, which is the 1-inch segment, is between this red and blue dot here. And I just happened to be looking and I said, hey, let me just pick this up and put the rouge godseed, which would, to see if it would fit right over top. So I scaled it up and everything to the right size, and, you know, discovered that it was a good match, or perfect match, not just good, over top of the outline that we've done. So this rouge godseed is also contained in the layout of this design here. Those are a little off the way I put them on there, but I don't want to tinker with it too much because you're wanting to finish up the rest of the Krystal Spiral. But this means that every rouge godseed, the layout, if you draw a circle around those outer ring of the blue and red here, that it will contain the inner square, which would be 1, to the top of the circle, which would be the 0.618. So whatever size it is, it's actually within a phi ratio. And this rouge godseed, I haven't done too much reading on it, but I know it's an important kind of culminating central place of the Cathara Krystal Spiral literature. So to see that it contains phi was pretty cool and pretty interesting. So I'm happy that the mathematics revealed that here. And of course, you can test all this stuff out on your own just by drawing what it is that I'm showing you. I'm going to do a whole other video on this and some other Krystal Spiral discoveries probably in the next 2 days here. But let's continue on. Let's finish up the spiral. Because now we just continue on your plotting here. Remember, we're going to go, we've just added that root 5 segment, little segment of it. And now we're going to go over here, and then we're going to do the measurement. Just set your compass, draw this across here. That one is like 1.58. If you took root 10 on your calculator and divided it by 2, you should get 1.58 something something. And that will be what this little segment is. Just like when you take the root 5 one on the next one, it will be the 1.118 segment coming up. So we've added that segment. And remember, just pause the video to make sure we're onto the central square here. I think I add a few more squares to complete it all the way in just a sec. But we're going to add this next little circle, red circle. Everything's getting a lot smaller, going around. And now we added that segment. I added 2 more squares so I can complete all the way to 360 as we make our way around. The next one gets even smaller. Let's zoom in a bit. And the next one, yep, quite small now. So you're anchoring off the inside of this. And we can zoom in so we can see what's going on there. Maybe a little bit more. Yep, so I've anchored off of this innermost square right at the halfway point. This is the 0.25-inch square, yep. 0.25-inch square. I'm anchoring over here and over here. Now I'm going to draw my last circle, or the last segment of the circle that's going across the length of the half the length of that diagonally oriented 45-degree square there. So when, and here's the thing, this last little bit, you know, you can keep going smaller and smaller and smaller if we were to zoom into this. In fact, I wanted to see if I could ever really reach a 0 point as it's kind of described that I would within the, if I keep going, that would arc into 0 point at the center of this circle. But I just decided to end it there because I took root 5, for instance, and you can do this on your calculator just for fun. Keep dividing root 5 by 2. Go, 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 go. I did 50 divisions of root 5 by 2 all the way, 50 divisions all the way till I came down to 0.0000000, lots of zeros, 2. And it was quite a cool sequence, actually, for root 5 when you start to do that. The last 6 divisions of it actually go from 64 to 32 to, this is 0.000000, 64, 0.00000032, all the way down to 16, and then to 8, and then to 4, and then to 2. And I was like, oh, what's going to happen when I get to 2? So I divided it here, and the last division of 2 comes up with, you know, this number with the E at the end. And then I just said, okay, well, did I just cross 0 point or whatever? That's as far as I've gone. Now, I can't keep going on this scale here, but you don't get to whatever the 0 point is, or can you get to 0 point within this spiral? I think it just keeps going on in division until you get to a point where you can't draw smaller squares anymore. But if you zoomed in enough, you could still draw smaller squares. So it's just kind of interesting to contemplate how this spiral does get to 0 point, or at which point will it get to 0 point. It's certainly not going to get to 0 point when you're doing the drawing. You're just going to have to end it at when you feel like, by just drawing this little line in towards the center. So this is what your drawing would look like if you now go over with your marker and just erase a lot of the background lines, and then you'll have your crystal spiral done with these perfectly done, nice arcing spiral all the way in. And, you know, we did all that basically to draw this line, this circle that's going down here in the middle. So a lot of little setup, a lot of moving parts there just to get those segments set up. But that's how you do it with sacred geometry. And I did it here on digitally, and as well as in the drawing that I was showing you. And because I extended out those full circles, there's some other neat examples, you know, other neat ways of doing this. You know, I got inspired by, or thought about doing the circle, because I know with the phi spiral, the Fibonacci spiral, there's a way to draw it based on Nabokov's spirals. He came up with an idea of just draw, you know, it's basically a quarter of a circle when you're doing the Fibonacci. In each of those squares, it's a quarter of a circle. So he went around and just did the complete circles and came up with the design like that. So I decided to just do the full circles, and this is what it would look like as we went down. And the only segments of these circles that we are using for the spiral are just these that you see here. But if we completed the circles all the way around, you see that it would kind of make this cool pattern like this. So, you know, I continue to kind of spiral back to the crystal spiral. I find it really interesting. I have a lot of fun with it. I've got some cool sculptural things that I've been doing with these designs, and a whole new discovery that I'm super excited to share in my next video with some more findings on this. But I thought that this would be a great introduction, because I have at least, you know, like I said, 4 videos on this subject of the crystal spiral to show how to draw it, because it's not anywhere out there. It does look simple, but when you follow the mathematics of actually plotting that spiral curve the way that I did, that really gets you deeper into understanding the kind of beauty of the mathematics that are contained within the spiral, and to see that the phi ratio showed up in there and that you could find phi was very, very cool for me to find. I wasn't expecting that when I started to just pick the 4-inch square to start with. So I hope you appreciated this video. Let me know if you were able to follow along, and thankful you tuned in. Until much love to you, and enjoy the rest of your day, and happy sacred geometry. All right, see ya, bye.